It's great to be talking to Dr. John Briffa on the Life Support Podcast. I'm Carl Munson, and I'm noticing, John, you've branded your screen there. I'm jealous. Why haven't I got that?
Because you probably haven't got the same camera I've got that allows you to do that. By the way, I'm one of the least technical people you could ever wish to meet.
Right, it's a nice touch.
I was in the camera settings, trying to get myself to look better. I noticed this thing that said badge in the settings. I went, what's badge? And then in badge, it allows you to upload like a logo. And I've just had my website redesigned and repurposed, I suppose would be the word.
Yes.
And I thought, well, now that I've gone to the bother of doing a bit of rebranding, let's use the branding here. So that's why it's there.
Excellent. Get you with your branding on screen. And the website address is?
drbriffawellness.com.
drbriffawellness.com, where you'll be able to see these podcasts, I hope, where today we'll be talking about passion versus purpose, happy kids, and what that means to be a happy adult, and back health. We did knees, we're working our way up the body, so we'll take a little bit of a look at back health, which at some time in everybody's life is an issue. But let's start with passion versus purpose. What's on your mind about that, John?
Well, I was having lunch with a friend of mine at his house. I was in London last week, and he invited me to lunch, also with his wife, who I hadn't met. There's a little story there. We'll get to that. Anyway, I met him professionally because he came on a couple of workshops that I was giving, so for the corporate client. But he's Maltese, basically. And that's a slightly odd thing, because there aren't that many Maltese people around. But weirder than that, it turns out, we work out, that his father and my father were in the same class at school.
Bizarre.
Which is odd. But anyway, we've become friends. Okay, so we've gone beyond that professionally into friendship. His whole thing professionally is strategy. And we were talking about kids, because I'd done the careers fair thing.
Oh, yes. How was that?
Well, what's my overwhelming feeling about it? A couple of things. Number one, I was quite surprised at how, look, I don't want to judge, and it's not their fault, how poor the sort of social and communication skills were of these children. And you think, well, they're only 11. No, they're not 11. They're 16 and 17. They're basically adult.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this. So my daughter Lily goes, well, how did what's it go? And I told her, I said, what's wrong with the communication skill with the people in your school? And she said, it's phones.
Oh, really?
I remember this, like when I was young, like 16, actually younger than that, 13, 14, friends would come round or you'd go to their house. And I remember you'd be expected to speak properly to adults, I'm talking about. So to your friends' parents. Okay. I actually like that. So you'd be at the dinner table, shepherd's pie would be served or whatever, and you'd have a conversation and everyone would be expected to participate, right? Yeah. Obviously there's no distraction in the way of phones, but you have to communicate and maybe, be a bit cheeky and play, just be normal.
Yes.
Anyway, that seems to have gone. And so there was that.
Gone.
Well, it does. It seems to have gone. First of all, the great majority of them sat down at the table. I had 3 groups of about 10 people come through, right? No eye contact, not even a hello. They just sit down.
Wow.
Like they're coming to class. I think that's possibly it. It's
like, do we have to be here? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. And but then I don't think maybe 1 or 2 said sort of thank you at the end of it. Do you know what I mean? Look, I'm not expecting them to go,
round of applause.
Inspiring. No. But come on, a few please and thank yous don't go amiss. Okay, so there was that. But also I was asking questions like, if you wanted to be, I've gone off on one here now, I realise, but anyway, I basically I'm asking questions like, well, if you were to be a doctor, what qualities do you think would be important to be an effective doctor? Crickets.
Right.
Some people say something like
in,
having good knowledge. Well, knowledge is the least important thing in my view, probably in medicine. It's it's much more human things like, being able to communicate well would be one, for example, and having some humility about you and actually caring about the outcome. But, I'd ask questions like, why, if you are going to do medicine, why would you want to do it?
Yeah.
And most of the answers were things like, I'm very interested in anatomy, which is all fine, but that's about you. That's not about them.
Yeah.
And medicine is a service industry. You're providing a service, and your job is to help people achieve their objectives, to help them.
Yeah.
That's your job. That's the job of a lot of professionals. It gets forgotten. And then, someone would say, I find it inspiring. One of them wanted to be a cardiologist, which is quite specific. So I said, where did that come from? And he said, my dad's a cardiologist. I said, forget your dad for a moment. Why do you want to be a cardiologist? And he said, I find it inspiring. And I'm like, again, it's about what am I getting out of it? And look, I'm all in. Look, I'm not, the ultimate altruist, but fundamentally at the root of this, if you want to be a good doctor, you have to care about other people and have their objectives as your, main objective.
Driving force, yeah.
It's your driving force. And I just didn't get that from them. So you asked me how it went. I was a bit disappointed.
I wish I hadn't now.
No, I know.
Okay. Which brings us on to passion versus purpose. So
right. So this friend of mine, Jonathan, right?
Yes.
He's very good on sort of strategy. He's a very good communicator. He's very, very thoughtful as well. Like he's one of these deep thinkers. Okay, and he helps people. First of all, he made a point that he's got 2 daughters who are grown up now. But he made the point that at one point, like the daughters would bring friends round who wouldn't communicate, and at some point he sort of sat them down and went, right, that can't go on. Yeah. If you're going to have friends round, they need to kind of communicate, need to know a bit about them. They need to introduce themselves. Do you know what I mean? Which is fair enough, I think. I mean, it sounds a bit Edwardian dad, but it's how I would be.
I did have that image, actually. I had have an image of you sat in the drawing room with a book and a monocle maybe, and occasionally looking over the top of the book. And who do we have here then?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Like a mini interview.
Yes.
That's what,
Yeah.
But anyway, we were talking about the fact that he helps write sort of admission statements for people wanting to go to university. And this idea has got out there that, it's important to be passionate about whatever it is that you want to do. And he says, that's perfectly fine, right? But don't write passion repeatedly in your admission statement. You need to demonstrate the passion. Does that make... I totally agree with this, by the way.
For sure.
Not like I am passionate about.
Yes, but when did that start? It's been a thing, hasn't it?
It's been a thing for a while, hasn't it? This whole passion thing. But also, I actually don't really believe in passion. And that's because I think it's something that can very easily come and go. Let me give you an example, right? So a few weeks ago, I was flying to Barcelona to give a talk in a place called Sitges, which is, if I remember rightly, I'm not very good with geography, about an hour outside Barcelona. And I'm waiting to get this flight out of Luton Airport. And the flight's getting...
life you live.
Yeah, I know. Used to be like an aircraft hangar, Luton. Now it's quite... They've upgraded it. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, I'm looking at the board. Delayed a bit more, delayed a bit more, delayed a bit more. And then it gets cancelled. Okay. So everyone starts rushing to the sort of the easy, trying to whatever. I don't do that because I've learned from experience. Don't do that. I need to get to Barcelona, right? So I start searching for flights. I find a flight going early the following morning, okay? Because there's going to be no further flights that evening. I book it. Then I walk to a local Novotel or whatever, and I try and get some sleep. I advise the client what the heck's going on. I go to bed. I get up very early in the morning, and then whatever. Now, it doesn't matter how passionate you are about what it is that you do. That is a bit of a pain. Do you know what I mean? It's not the end of the world, and it's not something I can control, but it's a pain. And the passion can easily just dissipate.
Yes.
But if you have purpose, which is another thing, beginning with P, but quite different. Why am I doing this? What is this all about? What value am I providing? What problems am I potentially solving? Do you know what I mean? Then it can see you through times where the passion just dissipates and you just think, ugh, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
agreed.
I am this is a personal view. I think passion is overrated, and I think purpose, it's a somewhat overused word maybe, is somewhat underrated. And so just going back to, I don't want to revisit it, but going back to the careers fair incident, what I wanted to hear, okay, it's up to them, of course, but what I wanted to hear, what I'd have been delighted to have heard, is people that have a genuine purpose in that they have a strong desire to help people.
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't get that at all.
How is that not fostered or driven out? I mean, do you think it's there and it gets driven out of kids, or it's just not a conversation that's happening about which they can become excited and engaged?
Well, actually, funny enough, yesterday I was, well, actually about a week ago, I was asked by the school to provide some feedback. And this was part of my feedback. I said, I talked about the social skills, and I said, you know, maybe the culture is a bit, you need to be seen and not heard, unless, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There might be some of that. But I also said, I get the feeling that what's going on here is that children are basically not being taught, obviously, how to think, but what to think. And therefore, if they haven't if there's no fact associated with what they're being asked, they're not being asked to regurgitate a fact, which is what education is mainly about, I think.
Then they're out of place.
Then they're a bit lost. They're a bit lost.
Yeah.
Like, what? Hey, what's that? What's this?
What's happening
you're
here?
About how I feel about something.
Yes. What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it.
And I think that is a major, major problem. But it also connects with our second topic.
Well, it does. It really does.
Yeah.
Can I add a couple of things there?
Yeah, of course.
Because I've got it in mind that it's around the time that products started talking. You know, when Innocent came out and started, you know, the bottle would say to you, I'm made with 27 bananas and a kiwi fruit. I think that was the time when passion was a thing. You know, we're so passionate about this, and this is passion in a bottle, and I think that's what happened. And it was refreshing to see something new, but I totally take on board how it's, I mean, I was seeing a relationship parallel. Passion's great in a relationship, but it's not always there. But if you've got if you can come back to purpose and you've got a framework, I mean, discipline might come into this. It's not a P, but if you've got the sense of purpose and the routine or the framework in which you are enacting your purpose and your vows, I think that's like a lightning rod for passion.
Are you talking about relationships here?
Yes, but I think it's transferable. I think it
it's funny that you should mention this, because I think the passion thing is somewhat overrated, because almost all couples will, I'm talking about very successful relationships, will talk about the passion, you know. But, you know, what often endures is something that's much deeper than that, which is around shared values very often, I think.
Purpose.
Yeah, purpose. Yeah.
Common purpose.
What are we here for? You know, what's our general worldview? This is one of the reasons, by the way, why I know generally people from the West, maybe come from sort of Christian backgrounds, think arranged marriages are odd. I'm not sure they're that odd, because I think they can be very successful, because if two people are matched in terms of culture and values, well, there's a kind of solidity, a foundation to that that can endure. I've spoken to loads of people, usually in Uber or Bolt cabs, about this, because I've found in the UK now, almost all of the drivers are Pakistani. And there's quite a tradition culturally in Pakistani families for arranged marriages. So I've had the conversations around this, okay? And what's behind it, and what's, you know, not in a kind of, oh, you weirdos, what are you doing? No, I'm genuinely inquisitive, because I do, you know what I mean? Obviously, they can spectacularly blow up as well, but, you know, whatever. And I've had this explained to me by people that are in the situation of having had arranged marriages and what's worked. Okay. By the way, the other thing I've noticed about a lot of those drivers, they're all male, by the way, is they're often, I think, very devoted to their families and children in particular. Do you know what I mean? They talk about their children very often, these people, in kind of reverential terms, like they really feel they're a blessing.
Yeah.
That makes sense, which is a little bit different, I'd say, from many other people that come from a different culture, I would say.
Indeed.
Maybe
Yeah,
we'll talk about it in a moment.
Yeah, well, we tend to see just the bad side of that, don't we? And there may be a healthy, good side, fulfilling side that's worth discussing, that you bring up there, which does lead us nicely, I think, into happy kids, and happy kids make for happy adults, you would hope.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so this is the thing. Over my life, I have met a number of adults that I feel are very content, very chill, very comfortable with themselves, and fundamentally not really bothered about other people. Or let me put it another way, other people's opinion of them, or what they perceive other people's opinion is of them. Ego related stuff that we discussed before, and the shadow self and all of that. And the one consistent factor that I found across these people, okay, and this is, anecdata, right? These are just a succession of anecdotes, but it's very consistent.
Is that your word now? Anecdata?
No, but I didn't make it up. I read it somewhere at some point. Okay. But I like it. It's,
I do.
It's anecdotal, but it is also data. But, it's not a published study, but I'm just expressing what I see. But anyway, the thing is that the one consistent factor I found across all of these people is this: one or both of their parents at some point said to them, "You do you." Right? You're not here to fulfill my objectives particularly. You just do what you really want to do, and I'll support you with that. Just throw your energy behind it, is all I'd ask. Do the best job you can. But what it is irrelevant to me, right? And I've noticed this a lot, so I'll tell you an anecdote. I think I mentioned on a previous pod that I recently met, not in person, but over Teams or Zoom or whatever, the son of a sort of ex-colleague of mine, basically. He's retired now, who's at medical school. And his father contacted me and said, my son is thinking of taking a similar path to you. Would you speak to him and advise him? So I read this, and what I'm thinking is, a similar path to me means he's got some sort of portfolio career in mind. He's not going to follow a very conventional path. He's going to maybe do a bit of writing and work a bit with corporates or whatever it is. Okay. Anyway, I agreed to speak to him. I start talking to him, and I realized very early on in the conversation, because I asked him, what did you have in mind? No, he's not thinking of what doing I did. I mentioned this, I think, on the previous pod. He wants to be a psychiatrist, but he doesn't want to practice like a conventional psychiatrist. Which I think is a good idea, because I think most of psychiatry basically doesn't work very well. Okay. And he's thinking, well, maybe we can do it a bit more holistically. So that might be, a nutritionally orientated approach, or it might be a better psychological approach. There are plenty out there, I think. Anyway, he's very holistic. It might involve psychedelics. Anyway, he's very holistic in his thinking. And in the course of this conversation, I said to him, by the way, I think I mentioned this again previously. I think he'll make a fantastic doctor, right? Because I said, why do you want to do this? And he said, because I think the way it's currently done isn't very good, and we should be able to do better. By the way, this is exactly the same answer I got when I was in Malta last year, and I was with the son of my cousin, and he's at physiotherapy school. And one day we're on our own. So he's a bit like my dad, this boy. So basically doesn't say very much, but there's a lot going on. And if you ask, there'll be a thought there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a lot, he's that sort of person. And so we're on our own. And I said, I'm going to ask you this question, and I want you to think about it and then give me the answer. And I said, why did you do physiotherapy? So he pauses for a bit, and then he goes, well, I had quite a lot of physiotherapy because he was a good footballer. And I actually didn't think it was very good. And I just thought we have to be able to do better than this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's very service interest orientated, isn't it? It's very like, right, I didn't have very good service. I want it to be better for other people, is essentially what he's saying, which is what this gentleman who is at medical school, who is going to be a psychiatrist, I think, but just do it in a much more holistic way. Anyway, I said to him, and this is the point, this is slightly unusual because most people are not content with the idea of breaking from the pack, particularly at your sort of age. They may come to it a bit later. But, it's quite brave because most people, at medical school, I think, are suffering from a degree of sort of hive mind, herd mentality. I said, where did this come from, this ability to not really care about what other people think? Because that's what it is. Because you have to be quite brave to go, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do this. No, you lot can do that, but I'll do that. Do you see? You have to be fairly self-possessed, I would say. And he goes, I think it came from my dad.
How nice. Yeah.
And I said, what's that? And he said, well, he's always said to me, I don't care what you do. Be a refuse collector if you want. I don't care. Just make sure it's what you really want to do and throw yourself into it properly. Do you see?
Yeah.
And I have found that to be a very, very consistent factor across people who do what they want to in life and do it well. Does that make sense? They're
yes.
Like, this
you
is
made the distinction, I think, as well, didn't you? Where they have at least one parent like that, and that's definitely my experience. I think my dad, he had sort of two parts to that. One is like, I don't really care what you do as long as you're happy, and
Lovely.
his appendix to that was, I've got no. I haven't got a leg to stand on in giving life advice. Look at me. So it's like, I can't tell you what to do because I don't know what to do myself. But whatever you do, the most important thing is you're happy doing it. So, and that is a gift, isn't it?
Well, I do think it's a gift. I think this is one of the reasons why you are quite free-spirited. You are quite self-directed. You have great, what's the word, agency and autonomy. Do you know what I mean? You basically... You live by your own rules, really. I think if I'm not judging you. These are all compliments in the right way. Do you know what I mean? But if you have that sort of parental influence quite early on, seeing this in a friend of mine called Omar, same thing. He qualified as a lawyer. Now he basically runs a hotel. That's what he wants to do.
I think there's another little caveat I'd like to put in is I have an Asian mother, and I think that's
I've met your mum.
You've met my mum, and she wishes I was you, because if I was Dr. Carl Munson, that would be this Asian mum thing is.
Yeah, I know, I'm very familiar.
Being a professional is not you do you bloody well do one of these things.
But that's
like doing
the other end of the spectrum, isn't it? But I think you've managed to swerve that, and it's good that you have. Okay.
Yes.
I think it's great that you've swerved it. By the way, do you know who Derren Brown is?
Yes, I do.
So Derren Brown, for those that are unfamiliar, he's British. He's a famous magician stroke mentalist. I think he's very good at his craft. Not only is he a good magician mentalist, he's a great showman. And he comes across to me as a very intelligent person. He's also a fantastic artist. Have you seen his art?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh my God. It's off the scale.
Right.
So portraits and caricatures, they are off the scale good. Okay. Anyway, have a look at his site because he sells them there. But anyway, I heard him interviewed once, and the story is, he's telling the story about how he went to Bristol University, studied law, and he was getting to like the end of the first year, and he noticed all of his friends were really sort of stressed out, and he's thinking, what are they stressed out about? Okay, and then they were stressed out about failing their exams and then having to report that to their parents, basically, is what it turns out. He goes, I didn't feel like that. He said, because my parents basically said, you do you.
And do your best. Yeah.
Just do what you want to do.
Yes.
Which helps explain how it is that he qualifies in law. And then instead of going into some law career, shortly after that, he's doing close hand magic in pubs.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you see? Because he's not thinking, oh, I don't want to let someone down. I have all this weight of expectation. What do I actually want to do? Well, apparently during college, he saw a stage hypnotist and went, right, that's what I'm going to do. Like that.
Amazing.
Right. And then you have to have a bit like this, this son of a ex-colleague of mine I was telling you about, you have to have security in knowing that it's fine. Does that make sense? The root that you're doing what's right for you. You've been told, do what's right for you. You're not thinking, oh, I've been told I need to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. All of that's gone. Now these people are working from a very sort of deep level of their own kind of, joy, passion, purpose, intuition, whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
There's a secret to that, I think. I think your daughter's an example of this.
I'm wondering about that. I've got my daughter just graduated, and she's a kind of late graduate, and I think interestingly, whatever you do, because of the dynamics between kids and parents, if you are like just do what you want to do, you be you, you may at some point face the criticism of, I wish you'd given me more structure and discipline and push, and you'd been a bit tougher. And probably vice versa, the people who are struggling with being horribly driven and taking that cue from their parents would long for what you're talking about. So I think there will always be that, but on balance, I think just in life generally, that's a gift ultimately we give ourselves, isn't it? Is to say to yourself, you be you, and let's find out what that means, and let's explore that. And I know that sounds really self-indulgent, which it is, but ultimately I think that is the best way to be happy, to work through all those false drivers and get to something which is, go back to the first point, which is your real purpose, and not one that you've inherited or feel obliged about, or you'll be punished if you don't do it.
I think you've summed that up beautifully. I think it's rare in certainly people I know in the culture, but if you can get to that point, then
I also want to say that there's amazing Asian comedy now about kids, like westernized kids with very strong Asian mentality parents telling them to be a success. That is such a rich seam of humor. I don't know if you know that kind of sort of meme of emotional damage, but that's where that comes from. And
my daughter does a fantastic rendition of it.
There you go, and that comes from that.
Is that the emotional damage?
Emotional damage, yes.
Yeah,
Asian parent.
Lily introduced me to it. I find it very funny, but I also see it. Because it's in her school, because she goes to an international school.
Yep.
So there's quite a lot of that about.
Well, it's funny because it's true.
Yes, yeah.
Which brings us on to back health. I don't know if we can make a connection. Some say that your financial worries and the weight of the world metaphysically is what can cause a little bit of back problems and issues. Would you agree with that?
Have you been reading Louise Hay again?
Not for a little while, but I do have a tendency to look for the metaphysical.
I published a book with Hay House once, by the way. But
of course you did, yeah.
One thing that I find interesting about Louise Hay is this, accept yourself, blah blah thing. I'm all into that. But then don't say that and have like a ton of work done, and I mean a ton of work. By the way, I don't mind if people have cosmetic surgery. Okay. Yeah. I'm not in judgment of it at all. If you're rejecting that, you can reject makeup and haircuts and all sorts of. Do you see what I mean? I don't think
it's a cultural thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's like weak for someone to have some cosmetic enhancement or anything like that.
Yeah.
But on the one hand,
inconsistent
with this idea that you should accept yourself for who you are.
Not unusual in the US.
Because I can tell you, she didn't accept her face, and she certainly hasn't accepted her breasts.
Yes, well, may she rest in peace. And I'm going to cancel that weekend for you and me in Turkey when we're going to get our hair and teeth done. I thought that'd be a really lovely surprise. But anyway, back health, John.
Right. So, So, first of all, it's a common problem. But a few years ago, I was due to go out for the day with some friends, and I woke up in the morning and I basically couldn't move. And I'd always had the odd twinge in my back. Like, a classic for me would be I'm driving for an hour, I'll get out and then one of my feet is numb. Okay, that's not quite right. But anyway, I'd ignore all of this, obviously. And then, one day there was a critical moment and I couldn't really move. So anyway, So I decided, how am I going to use this day? I know what, I'll learn about the back, what is going on. And so I came across the work of someone called Stuart McGill, capital M, small c, capital G, I-double-L. And he's written a few books, including one called The Back Mechanic, and which I don't particularly recommend, by the way. But essentially, I came across this idea. It's obvious when you think about it that you've got the vertebrae, the spine bones, that are, like a column of bones, and you've got nerves that come out from the sides, and any impingement on those nerves can cause problems. So first of all, pain, and then spasm, and then referred pain and sciatica and all that sort of stuff. And his whole thing is that you need stability in the back. So you need to strengthen the muscles that go down the back, the front, and the sides of the spine.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that in mind, he recommends specific exercises for this. And from that day on, and I think almost every day since, I've done these exercises. And I found them transformative, but I've also recommended them to lots of other people for whom they have been broadly very helpful. So you can look these up on YouTube if you go Stuart McGill, Big Three. That's how they're often termed.
Yes.
Big Three. So one is essentially where you're lying on your back, you bend one leg up and you lift your chest off the ground. This is for the front. Something called the bird dog, which is where you're on all fours and you put one leg out and the opposite leg back.
Yes.
One arm out. Okay. And then something basically called the side plank, where you're just, you're basically on, it's like a crucifix, but you're on your forearm. That. Now I may have described these before, but the reason that I'm talking about them is because I've been seeing things on X where people go, I've just had this operation on my back. And, once people start operating on the back, my experience is that it may provide some temporary relief, but what it seems to do, and I don't understand all the biomechanics of it, is that it just causes a problem elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's unusual, I've found, with people, real people, that it leads to kind of a long-term resolution of issues, whereas these simple exercises that don't cost anything and only take a few minutes to do very often do seem to sort of essentially permanently resolve the issue as long as you're doing the exercises. So I'm commending them to people.
Please give me the name again. The Big Three of which author?
Stuart.
Yeah.
That's UA, I think, rather than EW. McGill. Yeah. Capital M, small c, capital G, I-double-L. I think he's Canadian.
Yeah.
Got this big sort of walrus moustache.
Very good. And I think that it is overlooked, the importance of the strength and integrity of the front of your body in relation to the back of your body. And we tend to be like that, don't we, in our sort of rational minds, is we focus right in where the pain is, which is understandable and an instinctive reaction. But then we forget how it might be referred from elsewhere in the body. And it sounds like this is really great.
This is all about core strength, effectively. Yeah. And he makes this point because a lot of people, I think, are very into the idea of the back being flexible. Yeah. And he's saying, well, the flexibility, if it's at the expense of stability, is going to cause problems.
Yes.
So you wonder what happens to all those Cirque du Soleil people, who are, talking about Chinese people, putting their legs over the back of their head and using chopsticks to pick things out of a rice bowl.
Yeah.
That sort of vibe. Well,
yes,
I'm sure it's all fine, but the amount
of
flexibility...
That was a great holiday. That was a great holiday. Yes. Yes.
You're not thinking ping pong balls, are you?
No, I'm not. Certainly not. Certainly not. Okay, that's great. A little bit of investment, I think we could call it, couldn't we, in the back to save problems in the future. And I, the idea of operating on that beautifully sophisticated system with sort of relatively brutal tools does seem like it might be a temporary fix, but you could be causing other problems for yourself ultimately.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't do it and don't take the advice of a good spinal or neurosurgeon. That's all fine.
Yes.
But if you can swerve all of that, like we talked about knee health recently.
Yeah.
And I've had both back, as I explained, and knee problems, and all of them have basically been resolved without going anywhere near actually a doctor. Yeah. I remember, by the way, I was playing five-a-side football when I was a junior doctor, and at one point I went to kick the ball, and just as I was about to kick it, someone put their foot in front of the ball. So I basically kicked an immovable object with the side of my foot and strained some ligaments. And the next day I could hardly walk. And I sort of grabbed an orthopedic surgeon, and he looked at it and he went, right, well, we need to do arthroscopy, look into the knee. And who knows what he's going to find, when he does. I just went, whoa, whoa, hang on a moment. Whoa, you're talking beyond the sale. Hang on.
Yes.
I didn't have anything. But I have managed, again, with these very simple, but it's not just me. Loads of clients have had great results with, these very simple, homespun, low cost, low risk approaches to kind of keeping themselves mobile and vital, basically.
Okay, check it out. Stuart McGill's Big Three. And tell us the address of your website again, your newly refurbished website, John.
It's drbrifferwellness.com.
Excellent. Okay, well, you have a great week, and I'll speak to you again in a week's time, and we look forward to your feedback on this, the Life Support podcast. We record this live, Ciao. See you soon. Bye for now.
Cheers. Bye-bye.